I like it. I like it.
Okay. Wow.
Sorry, I just wanted to, we're all making comments. I wanted to chime in. Time for some stories to start your
Danny
morning.
Ainge ain't got abs like that, Jenna.
Send the meat wagon.
Another season, another mass exodus for Kentucky. Coach Cal says he expects just about all his players to go through the draft process and see where the committee sees him going. Nick, is it a good decision for them to go through this process?
It is, and I don't want the audience to think that this means all the players are going into the draft. They're going through the process.
Yes.
The NCAA, and I will give them credit, a couple years ago changed the rule on this. You used to only be able to go through this a maximum of 2 times. The second time you did it, you are in the draft whether you want to be or not. They removed that restriction, so you could go through this as a freshman, come back, go through it as a sophomore, come back, go through this as a junior. So Coach Cal encourages his guys to do this, and Cece, I thought you brought up a very interesting point. He can maybe use it as a coaching tool. How so?
When they break it down, whatever the pro scouts are saying, you need to work on your three, you need to work on your body, you need to work on going to your left, finishing at the rim. If the student athlete decides to come back, him and his coaching staff have the ability from a basketball standpoint, how do we develop these things for you over the course of the next 12 months to get you more NBA ready? They've given you a recipe, they've given you a roadmap of what they think you need to work on to be successful. So I think your basketball development department, your basketball operations, you make out a game plan for that player in the offseason. We're going to specialize in these exercises to be able to help you become a more complete ball player. I believe it helps out the player. It also helps that player in the offseason give him concrete things to work on to improve his skill, improve his draft ability.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to the Colts. Andrew Luck wasn't on the field last season, but owner Jim Irsay still thinks he's got a bright future. Irsay said Luck has, quote, a full decade ahead of him of excellence. So, Nick, what are realistic expectations for Andrew Luck when he does return?
To be the second best quarterback in his conference,
so just
behind Tom Brady, I don't think that's unfair. Like, this is once Luck is fully healthy, and man, oh man, I would hope coming into this year he's fully healthy. It would have been a year and a half removed from football for him. That Luck is able to go play the way we saw him, the quarterback he was turning into in year 3. Now, he's going to need better weapons than just T.Y. Hilton. He's certainly going to need a better offensive line than he's had before. I understand that, and he can't control those things. But Luck, to steal one of our favorite lines from Coach Mangini, is supposed to be and has been a force multiplier in this league. And a healthy Andrew Luck is better for everyone in the league, except for, I suppose, teams in his division competing with him.
Yeah, I think the realistic expectations are to try to get Indianapolis to a Super Bowl. He talks about in a 10-year window to get them to a Super Bowl. He's also got to dial back some of the expectations he said when they drafted him. He said that if this kid didn't win multiple Super Bowls, it would be a disappointment. Not like Peyton Manning and Tony Dungy, he said. So now we're sitting here probably about a third of the way through his career.
A little more.
Yeah. And he has not been to a Super Bowl. So now he's looking at excellence over the next 10 years. It's amazing how he changed his expectations.
All right, finally, Dez Bryant and the Cowboys. Dallas brought in Alan Hearns over the weekend, but Executive Vice President Stephen Jones says adding the former Jaguars wide receiver was not a way of getting rid of Dez. Jones also said, quote, "We will talk about Dez when it's time." CeCe, what time is it? What should the Cowboys do with Dez Bryant?
Oh, they know what they're going to do. They're going to definitely ask him to take a reduction in the salary.
Even though they've been promising all along that they're not going to do that?
No, they haven't promised that.
Well, Jerry Jones has come out and said, we're not talking, no salary discrepancy here.
No, Jerry's lying. Well, I'm not saying Jerry's lying. Jerry's never said there's no discrepancy. He said at some point he would talk to Dez. Dez is the only one that said that he wouldn't take less money. Dallas has never said that. They kept saying that they would talk to Dez. So there is going to be a time, I would say, when they get to the off-season workouts, April 9th, April 8th, that's when they start their workouts at Dallas facility. They're going to sit Dez down and ask him to take a salary reduction. That's what they should do. That's what his productivity has said. Regardless of what Dez said, this is the way they do business in the National Football League. All right? There's non-guaranteed contracts. There are guaranteed portions of those contracts. But when you have a big contract and you don't perform, you know that ownership is going to come to you, regardless if you want it are not. These are the normal things that they do to all players, not just Dez. We're not pointing Dez out to try to make him look bad. No, he's had 3 subpar seasons, lack of productivity, lack of touchdowns, lack of being a number 1 wide receiver. So he doesn't warrant the number 1 salary. So Jerry and them are going to go to him, and they will make a correction. And Dallas, they need the cap relief. Yeah. They need help with the salary cap.
All right, let's talk about this from a non-salary standpoint. Let's talk about this as far as Dez and what he said or what was reported that he's working on, because this is something we touched on last week, and I don't think we're able to fully get into it. Seems like the discussion around Dez and working on his game is being able to add to the variety of his routes, being able to run the full route tree, maybe even being able to line him up in the slot, things like that. That has not been your focus with Dez. Your focus with Dez has been less about expanding his routes and more about how he gets off the line of scrimmage and how he breaks off his routes. Tell me if I'm misquoting you here, but you think if he enhances those 2 aspects of his game, how his releases and how he breaks off his route or how he stops at the top of his route, that even with the limited route tree can get him not necessarily back to where he was, but a better player than he's been this year.
Right. A lot of teams play Dez a lot of bump and run, or even if they're playing cover 2 or some version of cover 2, his inability to get clean releases. And it's important to get clean releases when you have a young quarterback, because young quarterbacks do not like to throw to a wide receiver who is matted up man on man with a defensive back. So what we teach them is try to get on top of them and get the DB behind you, which typically in Dallas, they got the white jerseys they play in predominantly. You can see that as a young quarterback. When you see that white flash, it's easier for them to let go of the football compared to throwing to 2 guys matted up. They're used to throwing in college to guys who are wide open. They can hold the ball, pat the ball, and then throw the ball. In the league, you have to anticipate. So when you see both jerseys matted up, they hold on to the football. That's been one of his problems. And also at the top of the route, making it cleaner. Wide receiver coaches say drop your weight and separate away. I would get Dez to be able to play lower when he gets to the top of the route so he can explode in and out of the route, which I think he's capable of. I think those things, too, are easy to adjust, easier than learning the whole route tree, learning different types of route. I would take those 2 components, put it in with who Dez Bryant is right now, and I believe that would be a dominant receiver.
And for the audience, an example of a guy that's great on the releases, a guy like Odell, a guy who seemingly gets open immediately, right?
Yes.
And a guy who's great at the top of his route would be who? Who's an example? AB?
AB is exceptional. Julio Jones is exceptional at the top of the route. They are the best.
Okay. All right.
All right, back to the NBA now. Steph Curry's out at least 3 weeks with an MCL sprain he suffered on Friday. Head coach Steve Kerr says Steph will